Namaste and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sattology means a study of truth or science of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, study of fake lie imagination or science of fake lie imagination. It's a big irony that the Western academics called everything except their version of truth as mythology. But actually, the world is finding out whatever they have written about their own ancient traditions, history, and cultures is actually a mythology. I proved that in my last book, Gold, Glory, and God, A Curse on the Natives. Today, I have a very, very special guest, one of my favorite guests on the show. He's a Rishi, Muni, Swami, actually follower of Sanatan Dharma in life, in practice, and a researcher, great researcher, par excellence in today's world. And I love the term ocology. If somebody said it, I love it. And we also had a Vartak Oak Siddhanta. Also, we discussed about it. So, without delay, let us welcome Sri Nilesh Nilkant Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji.
Namaste.
And welcome back. And thank you for mentioning the Okology and Oak Vartak Siddhanta. The list is getting longer. There is an Okian stock like a Bitcoin, like I have to float now Okian stock and that people should start investing in it. So it's a good thing. What does that tell you? Like many of my so-called critics, I'm saying so-called because critique and criticism is actually a very virtuous thing. It's a good thing because that's how we identify the errors, and when we eliminate those errors, progress takes place. Unfortunately, I'm calling this so-called critics because they don't know how to do critique, or they don't know how to do criticism. So only thing they can end up is getting some funny, foolish things, personal things. But we have to learn how to make lemonade out of a lemon. So that's what it is. So actually, one more thing. So Okology, you said there is a Oak Mahabharat or Oak Bharat. There is one lady who started calling it whatever analysis I gave because she doesn't understand it and it goes against whatever she believes in her dogmatic view. She started calling anything I say as a Oak Bharat or Oak Mahabharat. And there is a wonderful project that is going on. So I picked up that word. I love to do it. People think like by calling these things, they can call me names and dishearten me. No, actually, I get energy from them, like biomass, you burn the biomass and create energy. That's how it is. So there is actually, I'm collaborating with, you mentioned spoken Sanskrit. Now, this is not spoken Sanskrit. You can say this is written Sanskrit. I'm collaborating with one wonderful individual. I'll not just mention the name because he doesn't want necessarily to have too much popularity, let's say. I am giving him the analysis of my Mahabharata research right now, and he is putting them in a word form in Sanskrit, like in Anushtup Chanda, just like the Shlok of Mahabharata. So sometime we will actually recite it here and how beautifully they fit. But back to you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Actually, I have now not gone anywhere. वहां पर भी यही काम चल रहा था Sattology का. So now the point which is attacks on our culture. People think colonial era has ended, but I don't think so. It's still going on. And in names of all the international military treaties, if you look at all the military treaties, just now the Quad is there, which is a business grouping, I call it, and the Americans launched the ACUSA. Australia, UK, and USA. That's a military one. Now, Australia, like the president of the United States, call it the Down Under. It will take the name. And the Down Under, how can that be a West? And then, so the military domination is still, this is the same old colonial thing that if you do not listen to us, there is a ship waiting for you to attack you. That's how the international diplomacy goes on. And the Western academics have till date continuing the misrepresentation of facts, keeping Western audience foolish day by day, dumber and dumbest. So the world has progressed due to social media, but the Western audience has remained in 18th century or 16th century.
Hmm.
They have not progressed from that time, and they are partly successful. That's why I call it the critical faith theory. They always assume that their Abrahamic faith is superior to anything else, and that's what it is going on. So what is your view on that? Because most of the Indologists are also suffering from this.
Yeah. Well, yes, and they're doing it. I mean, not the Indologist, but this colonialism has not gone, and they are doing it in a under different names and in a more sophisticated forms. For example, I mean, not for example, and that issue or that reality is not understood by many Indians. I mean, that reality is not understood by many people around the world because you can call it imperialism. America modified that to capitalism. But intent is exactly same. Form is like what you call the design, form, and function. That's exactly same. Is to control others, rule others. There is no concept of working together in a very positive fashion to truly benefit the world. It's just not there. And so colonialism exists in various forms. Even something that can be considered or on the surface may be felt as exactly opposite of capitalism, let's say as a communism, where both love violence. That is their prime motive. By force, violence, coercion, they will want to get what they want. But that communism is coming in various forms, like post-modernism, post-truth, post-this, women's movement, like this whole fluidity. Everything in the workplace or even in a social infrastructure is really to push that same idea. So I agree with you, it has not gone. In fact, something I may mention, and I'll just show you, I'm copy pasting it there here. The one initiative that I'm working on called Pracham. I mean, the initiative is not Pracham, but under the banner of a Pracham, and I have talked to you about it, to create a 10 doc. I mean, it's a 10 documentary project. There are many original researchers, many creative individuals, many social activists around the world, but especially India. They're connected with this initiative. Many people from various academia, government. I mean, they are trying to help us in their limited capacity. Out of those 10 documentary project, one documentary, one episode, you can say, the title, the holding title, I can say, the placeholder is called The Sahib That Never Left. That just tells you what situation India is in. The Sahib that never left, meaning the person of a British origin might be gone, but the mentality that British really incultured here in India, it's still there. In fact, it is just growing. I mean, that's what you see in academia. That's what you see in a social discourse, whether it's on a Twitter or some forums, some private, some small forums related to India. I mean, their attitude is an extremely servile attitude. They have not found their self-esteem, and everything they would like to see through. If whatever they say, whatever they write, is that going to make the British guy happy or not? I mean, the British left 1947, but the mentality and their influence continues. So I'm in agreement with you that it's still there.
Somehow to reverse this colonization aspect, we have to build an open mind, like the open research. Like when you first told me about the Lanka, and then I researched, I'll be very honest with you, you were the first one to share that,
Hmm.
and then myself found out that you were
Hmm.
saying truth. So
Hmm.
my trust in you also increased, and others trust on you also will increase. So
Yeah.
when you get an inspiration, it's not just you to stop there. Get into it.
Yes.
Roll up your sleeves and get into it.
Yeah.
So that's called karma pradhan mindset, which is very important.
Yeah.
So we'll get started on this one. Today is
Okay.
attacks. Attacks are
Okay.
continuing, and attacks will continue, and there are attacks in Mahabharat too.
That's right. And here we are, of course, talking not a metaphorical attack, actually a physical. I mean, actually, there is a reason why Mahabharat, Vasudev is using the word akraman, akraman, okay, in describing a specific situation, planetary situation at the time of Mahabharat war. And then another word that that Mahabharat uses, it uses the word Sanskrit word pida, like pidayate, pidyate, pida in the sense of torturing someone. And I'm just calling it like afflicting, other people have also translated it like this: torturing someone, afflicting someone. But these, in our regular life, we understand them in a certain fashion, but that is not necessarily how Mahabharata used it in describing the astronomy evidence. There is a very specific way it is used, and so we will discuss that. So, can you see my slide, Aditya? You see my slide now?
Yes, now I can see it.
Okay, so it says attacks and affliction by Graha, and we are continuing this series on mysteries of Mahabharata astronomy. In fact, this our discussion is becoming so popular that it is sending what can you say? What's the right word? Fear in the hearts of many other pseudo Mahabharata researchers. They are now trying to downplay the astronomy evidence of the planets. Do you know why? Because actually, I think we did two specific episodes on the astronomy evidence.
Right.
One we did it on it does retrograde means, and then we did one on the 3 instances of 7 planets doing something to the sun or the moon. And that's like scaring these pseudo Mahabharata researchers, and it should scare them, rightfully so. The reason is not even a single one of them will able to show any of these descriptions that I already discussed in the 2 episodes. But their nightmare becomes a bigger nightmare. Okay, because Mahabharata planetary evidence is not limited to what we discussed. It's actually 35 plus strong. And for all practical reasons, Aditya ji, I might have missed something. That is also a possibility. So we may find something new. And if we do find it, then we have to test it for my date or anyone who wants to claim that they have done something sensible in finding the date of Mahabharata war. So today we will discuss attacks and affliction by the Graha as a part of the mystery of Mahabharata astronomy.
Yeah, these are the same kind of researchers who claim that Mahabharata had only 8,800 shloka.
That's right. I mean, then you have got a mixture, or Mahabharata has got 8,800, or basically, see, sometime Aditya ji, I feel I do not doubt their sincerity about the Mahabharata as a itihas. I think that is there. In fact, that can be understood as why they feel motivated to do something about Mahabharata dating. So where is the problem? I think, Aditya ji, the problem is with their dogmatic attitude. Sometime related to a specific sampradaya and whatever that person says, sometime whatever their father said, mother said, God knows what it is. But what they don't, those are all good starting points, right? Nothing wrong with it. I mean, if we don't know anything and somebody says that the trees are green because of so and so, then we have no reason to doubt it right away. We say, oh, thank you very much, I did not know that. But then the onus is on you as an individual to trust, to basically trust that time, but then go and verify. These people don't do that. Now, when they try, what happens? See, they attach too much ego to what they claim. So now they have found out that what they have claimed is a disaster. In private conversations, they have admitted that with me, they admit with many others. Okay. Now, just as a point of decency, I usually don't bring those discussions if they have personally discussed with me or if they have personally discussed with someone else. Now, sometime indirectly, those discussions might come up in certain contexts. So I don't doubt their sincerity, but I don't have to doubt it. It's very clear that they lack the necessary scientific acumen, necessary logical reasoning, necessary background knowledge. and they are stuck into this what Gautama Rishi calls. He says tat trairasham raga dvesha moha arthantara bhavat. Raga, attachment to something; dvesha, detestation for something like me or my date, my claim; and stupidity. Now we will take this in a mild fashion as a lack of intellect, lack of desired intellect. I think that's the problem. I do not, again, I mean, and I don't think you question it either. Maybe you have a different take. If you have, I don't question their sincerity. Do you think, I mean, or where do you think, Adityaji, the problem seems to be
No,
with these researchers?
according to me, they lack sincerity. The
Okay,
the way
interesting.
the way I say sincerity, why I say sincerity is
Hmm.
sincerity doesn't see the there. It's called the Satuguna ke bhi. There are people bounded by Satuguna also.
Hmm. Yes.
So Satuguna can also be very binding.
Actually, there is a definition. I think, isn't it in the Bhagavad Puran? It says Sattva binds. That's
Yes,
what it says.
yeah, they're the prisoners of Satuguna,
Hmm.
and the prisoners of Rajogun, prisoners of Tamogun. So social acceptance plays a very big role here.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
despite having all the evidences on the Shastra, direct quotes,
Hmm.
including just the Ram Setu one, so
Yeah.
many quotes are there. And our great rishis have not, Madhvacharya has maintained it, Ramanujacharya maintained,
Yeah.
Yamunacharya says it.
Hmm.
But they, so the sincerity, I do not mean, one thing is I want to give them a credit that at least they believe that everything is itihas.
Huh. Yes.
I, like you also gave the credit, I also give the credit over there, because
Right.
in a way they are the gurus of many people and we respect them for that. But I,
Correct.
where I say sincerity lacking, because they're not, you see, one is verbatim repeat the words of a guru,
Huh.
or you verbatim repeat the words of Vyasa.
Hmm.
Because Vyasa's words sometimes, due to Kali Yuga, Manda Sumanda Matyo Manda Bhagya Upadhuta,
Hmm.
because of Kali Yuga's effect, sometimes we think that we are more intelligent than Vyasadeva.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's where the problem comes in. I would, let us continue, because I
Yeah,
think we lose our.
yeah, right. Just quickly want to mention, I forgot what the subject was, but some of the initiatives. And so for our audience and who is listening right now, but also who would listen to YouTube. This is what I was referring to. One of that initial question you asked about has the colonialism gone from the Indian psyche? The answer is no. And under this particular place, people can go to this Pracham video, I mean, YouTube, and check some of the existing videos. But under this initiative, many people are connected with this. And in spite of all the challenges of a COVID, due to COVID and all, we are progressing further. I am also part of this initiative. And so one of the episode, or one of the documentary of this series, has a holding title of The Sahib That Never Left. And, that kind of tells you that colonialism is live, thriving, and kicking, especially in the Indian psyche, and that does need to be removed. Okay. So, and all we are doing is, in a way, in our small ways, is basically to achieve that. So today we are going to talk about two specific aspects. We discussed three additional aspects before, and in the summary I'll bring them together again. But today we'll discuss two. One is akramya. It's a Sanskrit word. You can simply translate that as an attack. Just for simplicity. And the other one is a pida, in the sense of affliction. Affliction, torture, something like this. Now, remember our 5-step framework. This is the framework of the modern science, modern scientific methods, logic of scientific discovery. It's not different. In fact, in some form, it came from a very, very ancient Indian Nyaya Darshan, Nyaya Shastra, Sage Gautama's, where he talks in the language of a avayav, five things which together form the avayav framework, which is pratidnya. Then you have a hetu, reasoning, which is that statement of a theory. Then you use, in explaining something, you use the drishtanta. Then you actually apply that logic to a specific problem you are trying to solve, and then you finally summarize the answer. In a modern science framework, it starts with the toughest unsolved problem. So in this case, today what we are going to look at is, we are going to look at two tough unsolved problems of Mahabharata astronomy. Unsolved problems before Nilesh Oak published in 2011. That's what I'm saying. This is not to say that I started from a total blank. No, I did not. I'm standing on the shoulders of many great Mahabharata researchers of last 400 years, 2000 years or so. Okay. I'm learning from the successes that they achieved. I'm learning from their failures. Okay. And I'm hoping that my successes becomes the ammunition, excitement for future researchers, and future researchers hopefully will able to find any errors I make. That's how we make progress. That's how we may make progress in modern science. That's how we make progress in a Nyaya Darshana speak. That's how we make progress in Adhyatma, in a spiritual journey, and so on. So two problems we are going to discuss. Toughest unsolved problem. What does akramana refer to? That is, attack refers to. Again, remember, if you notice, I'm not changing my theory. That's the beauty. The theory has to be the same to solve the entire big problem. You cannot use 10 different theories to solve the dating of a Mahabharata, even when you are using only astronomy evidence. Okay. And I have shown some of the debate that I did at Sangam Talks. The other side was using all kinds of patchworks. Every time they got in trouble, they pulled another theory. I mean, this is just such a pure humor. But of course, the people who are listening to it, they're so overwhelmed by this, the fact we are discussing astronomy, that they couldn't even laugh at the humor. Okay. So the theory has to be same. Theory is simple. My theory is simple. All astronomy descriptions of Mahabharata text are actual, factual, visual observations of Mahabharata times. As soon as you state a theory, three things come out. Three wonderful things come out. One is, now you know what type of evidence, what evidence you should go and extract. Anything that has astronomy sense to it, you should extract it out of Mahabharata text. The second thing it also tells you is the background knowledge you require to do this. Okay. What is the background knowledge required? Well, the description says all astronomy descriptions of Mahabharata are astronomy observations. You definitely need a knowledge of astronomy. You definitely need a knowledge of Mahabharata. That's what the background knowledge is. And the third thing it does, or it demands, the theory should be stated in such a way that it should become objectively testable. Indriya pramanya, that is the Sanskrit word. We should able to test all the evidence in an objective fashion in the light of that theory. That's how the theory has to be formulated. And so objective testing of, I'm just saying as an example, AV observation, but that applies to any astronomy observation. Okay, now when finally we solve the problem, I don't mean an AV observation, I'm going to show you the evidence. It should answer that evidence, it should able to explain the evidence, and it must come out with a specific inference. Usually that inference is a prescriptive or proscriptive in nature. It will say, hey, this points to this. That's like a prescription. This one is pointing to 5561 BC. That is a prescription. Or proscription could be, this says, well, you know what, based on this evidence, this particular thing cannot happen anytime after 5000 BC, anytime before 7000 BC. So that's like a proscriptive, what is definitely not going to be happening or not possible. And prescriptive is what exactly is happening. We get both of them, or we can get one of them, and they are useful. All right. So akramya. In Mahabharata text, we have two observations, two opportunities for akramya in the context of course, the astronomy evidence. Otherwise, as far as the yuddha is concerned, the war is concerned, there is a lot of akraman going on. Okay. But in the context of a war, but as Vyasadeva is noting down specific astronomy observations of that time, so that he is time stamping the whole event in a very creative form. That's why Mahabharat Vaishampayan describes how is this Mahabharat Grantha. He says, Grantham Granthi Tada Chakre Munir Gudam Kutuhala. Okay, Vyasadeva ji, with the help of Bhagwan Ganesh, he has created in such a way that it is full of curiosities, full of mysteries, and it is full of twist. It's not to be easily, it's not difficult, but it's not to be easily comprehended by somebody with ulterior motives. The person will not able to get it. And unless somebody is willing to do tapasya, they will also not get it. So akramya, we have got two references. The first one is very, very easy. So I'm going to start with that one. Here it says bhagyam, but it's actually bhagam. You will see that in many variations. Bhagam nakshatra akramya. That is that word akramya. Surya putrena pidate. Surya putra means Saturn, Shani. and the Bhaga nakshatra means Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni. Both are Bhaga nakshatra. Okay, the Bhaga Devata. Some scripts you will find, some ancient Indian narratives you will find Bhaga as a Devata of Purva Falguni. Others you will find as a Uttara Falguni. Sometimes you will find Bhaga as a nakshatra Devata of both Purva and Uttara Falguni. Otherwise, sometimes it's paired with Aryaman. Okay, so we will take Bhaga nakshatra as a Uttara Falguni, but Falguni is also fine. The second one, it does not specify the name of the graha. In fact, it is given as an adjective. It says Shamo graha prajwalita sadhuma saha pavakaha Indram tejasvi nakshatram jeshta akramya tishtati. Okay, so nakshatra of Indra, that is Jeshta. Okay, and so it is given almost a double. And that particular planet, okay, that particular planet is attacking Jeshta nakshatra. Now, how are we going to decide which planet is a Shamo? The Shama means like a dark or blue colored. Okay. Now, in alternate versions of Mahabharata, instead of Shamo, you will find Shubro. Okay. Or some few other words, which means white planet. If you look at in the sky, if you look at almost all the planets, our all visible planets, you are going to describe even non-visible planets, which is to say Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, very hard to see with, I mean, you'll not able to see with naked eye. You are going to describe them as what? You're going to describe them as a shining star, right? So you might call it white. You may call it a shining object, but there is some variation. For example, Mars is red. That's why we call this Lohitango. Okay, Saturn also is kind of a brown red somewhere there. In comparison, Jupiter and Venus, they are white, and Mercury is usually seen as red because it's very close to the sun anytime we actually observe it, and that's why it looks red. Okay, so my point is the Shamo by itself doesn't tell you which planet it is referred to. I am asserting that Mahabharata is referring to Jupiter. Okay, because of the word Shamo and Shubra. But somebody else will say, come on, I think it's a Venus. Somebody will say, no, I think it's some another planet. And I will say, be my guest. For your date, do show me that planet, whatever planet you are claiming as a Shamo Graha, that it must be near Nakshatra Jeshta. Okay, problem solved. So that's what I'm saying. So Shamo Graha Prajulita Sadhuma Sapavaka Indra Tejasvi Nakshatram Jishta Akramya Tishtati. There is something else to it. That Tishtati, meaning it has settled there. It is there for a long time. And that itself, what tells you is that Saturn or Jupiter spend anywhere much longer in comparison to other planets. But even Mars or Venus, when they go in retrograde, they might spend some decent time in a particular place. But if they're not in retrograde, they will quickly move from one nakshatra to another. Let's look at this for year 5561 BCE. Okay. If somebody looks at it, the first one, there is this reference from Mahabharata that I just stated, Bhagam nakshatra akramya surya putrena pidate. I am saying the akramya means the planet is near that nakshatra and is staying there for a while, or the planet is near that nakshatra. That is even sufficient. So what do we find? If we go back 1 year plus or even longer, that's why I said 1 year plus, okay, at least 1 year or longer, and leading all the way to the day of the first day of the Mahabharat war, that is 16 October 5561 BC, not far from where we are today. We will celebrate 7682nd anniversary of a Mahabharat war in just few days on 16th of October. So leading to that first day, 16th of October 5561 BC, you can see that the Saturn was here, very close to Chitra. But if you, that is on the first day, but if you go backwards 1 year or 1 year plus, it was essentially going backwards and forwards because of retrograde and otherwise in this area of a nakshatra, Hasta nakshatra, Uttara Falguni, nakshatra, Purva Falguni. It was there in the nakshatra Falgunis, which are called Bhaga nakshatra. So we corroborate this. Okay. The second one, Shamogra, it's not very clearly stated as a Jupiter. So it is my assertion that the Shamogra is a Jupiter, and therefore I'll make it clear. If somebody, some other researchers, instead of a Jupiter, he or she wants to claim that the Shamo is not Jupiter, but in my opinion, which is to say their opinion, they think it's a Venus, they think it's a Saturn, Mars. Hey, be my Jupiter, Mercury, be my guest. The point is, once you claim that as a certain planet, you have to show that it is attacking Jeshta Nakshatra the way Saturn is attacking Bhaga Nakshatra. That is to say, close to that nakshatra, in the vicinity for a long time. Okay. All right. So what do we see for Jupiter? This is Jeshta Nakshatra is the nakshatra of Indra. Also, we have the word Jeshta itself in the verse. And it can be shown that for the year 5561 BCE, leading to the first day of the war, if you go backwards in time, 1 year or 1 year plus, then the Jupiter was essentially going around back and forth between Nakshatra Anuradha and Mula, with Jeshta right in the middle. And so that corroborates that particular observation. Okay. Both verses have the word Akramya. Second one has the word Tishtati, and something else, which is very, very important, especially this verse has it. It says Shamo Graha Prajwalita. Now, of course, all planets are bright every time, but this is said as they are really shining brightly, which happens during the retrograde, and so that everything matches. This is our part one. The part two, let's again start with the second tough problem. What the word Pida means. So some planet or moon, sun, Jupiter, Saturn is described and said they are giving a Pida to some nakshatra. And how do we understand it? Now, Pida is a generic word, right? It's like a torturing, afflicting, and people can interpret in 10 different ways. There is a saying, Adityaji, in our Indian narratives. Shankaracharya has also said it, but many other acharyas also said it, that the beauty of ancient Indian narratives is that the word is, the actual shabda is not burdened by the multiple interpretations. So multiple interpretations is perfectly fine. That is how somebody reading Bhagavad Gita, Ramanujacharya, from a specific verse derives a certain meaning, because he is focusing or he's trying to emphasize a certain point. Madhvacharya might look at it slightly different. Shankaracharya would look at it differently. Srila Prabhupada would look at it differently. Vinoba might look at it differently. Lokmanya Tilak has looked at it differently. Savarkar has looked at it differently. So you can go, and Aditya ji might look at it one way and I may look at different way. Okay. And the point is, that is not an issue as long as matabhed is okay, as long as we don't have a manabhed. Okay, as long as our purpose is pure, okay, what we want to achieve is clear, it doesn't matter. So there can be a different interpretations even for a Pida. The point is, there are 3 opportunities in Mahabharata text where the word Pida is used. And once you define how that Pida is, again, now it is the responsibility of you as an individual researchers to show how these 3 observations match with whatever definition, interpretation of Pida one does. Okay. So again, this is because I did it. I can go fast. Once you have a theory, 3 things emerge. One is, you know which evidence to look at, you know what background knowledge, and one actually how to objectively test it. When you objectively test it, and if by luck, if you succeed, then first thing is you provide the explanation. And the second thing is you draw a meaningful inference. Aditya, this thing must happen every time. Every time there is objective testing of something to solve a tough problem. And if you succeed, it should lead to 2 things. One is the explanation of the very problem, which is to say the solution of the very problem. And the second one is it should always provide additional insight. And that can be prescriptive in nature, or that can be proscriptive in nature, or both. So in this case, say, for example, what is the outcome? The outcome is saying, if I want to look at every single instances of Pida, a planet or a graha doing something to some nakshatra, what I see is this is my outcome, like the outcome of my research, is that a planet is afflicting nakshatra on the opposite side of the sky. So keep that in mind as we actually look at 3 references. A planet or group of planets, if that's what is there in the description, they are afflicting another nakshatra which is somewhat opposite side, on the opposite side of this visible sky. Okay, and that's what the idea is. So let's look at it. Pidyate, or pida is the word. Mahabharat, as I said, there are three instances. The first instance is sun and moon together doing this, giving this pida, afflicting, torturing nakshatra Rohini. In fact, all three references are different planets or a combination of planets torturing or afflicting nakshatra Rohini. Whatever is the whatever is their tough, whatever is the bone with Rohini, but that's what they're doing it. Okay, so sun and moon afflicting Rohini. When is that happening? I am asserting that this reference is referring to the first day of the war. Now, somebody may not agree with this because Mahabharata is not explicit. I'll show you the reference in a second, that it doesn't say on the first day. I am saying it is on the first day. But if somebody says, no, it's not on the first day, it's actually on the seventh day for whatever reason, then I'm going to ask them why you think it's on the seventh day. And does it, using their interpretation, does it afflict Rohini? Which also means people have a right. In fact, if they are listening to me carefully, they would ask that question. So Nilesh, based on what evidence you say that this observation, sun, moon afflicting Rohini, appears to be from the first day? And I'm going to give you the answer when I show it to you. The answer is because the first day of the war is a Amavasya day, and that is the day sun and moon are together. And you'll see how consistent the interpretation is of this word pida, whether sun, moon, and is doing it to Rohini, or Saturn is doing it to Rohini, or Jupiter is doing it to Rohini. That's what we're going to look at. So just in this picture, imagine where Saturn is. Saturn is here near nakshatra 8 and 9. Or rather 7 and 8. But yeah, on the day of the war, it is between 8 and 9 there, between Hasta and Uttara Falguni. Where is sun and moon on the first day? They are right between Mula and Purvashada nakshatra. And the Jupiter is near nakshatra Shravan, or slightly before that. From each of these places, Mahabharata is saying it is afflicting, torturing Rohini. So how do we understand it? The answer, which I gave you just now, is that I'm saying the Mahabharata is understanding pida, affliction, in the sense of a graha afflicting a nakshatra in the opposite portion of the sky. And it so happens they have selected Rohini for it. So the first reference, it says, Rohini pida yattevo ubhaucha shashi bhaskaro. Both Shashi and Bhaskar, that is the moon and sun, are doing pida to Rohini. Now, why is this observation important? This is extremely important observation because the position of the Rohini is fixed. You cannot move it in the sky. Okay, it's between Kritika and Mrugashirsha. And the Shashi Bhaskaro, they have to do this pida in the same fashion. The first day of the war, no matter whether somebody, the reality is it is the Kartik Amavasya, the end last day of the Kartik, beginning of Margashirsha. But suppose somebody claims, and there are a few researchers, as Aditya, they think it's not the Kartik Amavasya, but it is a Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi, 11 days after this. Doesn't matter whether they consider Margashirsha Shukla Ekadashi or Kartik Amavasya, the position of the sun is fixed. The position of the sun has to be near Jeshtha, Mula, Purvashada nakshatra. So that is fixed, and nakshatra Rohini position is fixed. Therefore, what does the pida means when it says moon and sun are afflicting Rohini is very clear. Therefore, this particular verse is of a tremendous importance. Okay, now it's a bit technical and bit dry discussion, but I tried my best to explain it. So sun's position is fixed, Rohini's position is fixed, and it's not going to change in like a 10 days, 15 days, because sun is going to go only 1 degree ahead. So in 13 days, it will only cross one nakshatra. That's it. Okay. All right. So sun's position is fixed, Rohini is fixed. So we know exactly what it means by the word pidyate. That's why I said it means, it appears, what Vyasa is saying is a planet afflicting, torturing a nakshatra in the opposite part of the visible sky at any given time. So that's what we are saying here. So Rohini is been afflicted by sun and moon. On the first day of the war, sun and moon were together as seen from the earth because it was a day of Amavasya. Where were they? They were near Nakshatra, Mula and Purvashada. And where is Rohini? Well, Rohini is here. So if you want to just do a counting, so say if you count from Mula or you can count from Purvashada, doesn't matter. You can even skip both together. So say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So about 12, 11, 12 nakshatras or 13 nakshatras away. Now, isn't that the opposite part of the sky? Answer is yes, because there are total of 27 nakshatras. Just in a very crude fashion, at any given time, you're going to see approximately half of that portion. Actually, you may able to see bigger, more, but we'll just take half. So approximately 180 degrees and some 12, 13 nakshatras are visible. And the sun and moon are on this first day. Imagine the time of a sunset. So they are ready to set. The sun is ready to set, and along with it, moon, because it's Amavasya. And exactly opposite, say through approximately 180 degrees, 12, 11, 12, 13 nakshatra apart, is nakshatra Rohini rising. Okay. And this is what Vyasa is described as the setting sun and moon rising, the afflicting the rising Rohini. Now, by itself, this is not a big deal, guys. You know where the big deal comes? When we look at the next two. Do we use this interpretation of a pida, affliction, in a consistent fashion? So two more and we can stop. Okay. So the second one, this description occurs, just pay attention. Huh? It's very important to understand. This description occurs on the 17th day of the war. This is the day when Arjuna killed Karna. And if you see the picture here, number of you may know the story. If not, read Mahabharata, that Karna's chariot wheel gets stuck. So finally he has to get down to remove it. And that's when Arjuna kills him, right? That is the story. Now, this is the day in describing the situation, the overall atmosphere, emotional atmosphere, but physical atmosphere. Vyasadeva is describing many things. One thing that he describes there is that he says, well, it was such a tense scenario and many things in the sky are happening. It says, Brahaspati Rohini Samprapidya, again that word pida, Babhuva Chandra Arka Samanavarna. This is beyond fascinating if you are in astronomy. What it is saying is, on the 17th day of the war, Brahaspati, which is Jupiter, okay, and I'm going to show you where it is. That time the Jupiter was here. Brahaspati, Jupiter, started torturing Rohini, okay. Again, if you look at the position of Jupiter to Rohini, you'll find 9, 10, 11, 12 nakshatras, something like this. So that's fine, that those are opposite ends of the visible sky. But something else. It said Jupiter started afflicting Rohini in the same fashion like the moon and the sun were doing it. Or there are some different variations you will see. Babhuva Chandrarka Samana Varna, and there, instead of a Samana Varna, there is some other word. But the point is, so Jupiter started afflicting Rohini the way sun and moon were afflicting Rohini. I showed you how the sun and moon were afflicting Rohini. That is something non-negotiable because we know the position of Rohini, we know the position of sun, and it cannot change much. So we know it is from the opposite ends of the sky. Now we have to ask, well, is Jupiter doing this pida to Rohini the same fashion? The answer is yes. It is doing from the opposite portion of the sky, visible sky, because they are separated by 9, 10, 11 nakshatras. Okay, that's the idea. So this is our second point to validate what we are claiming pida. And now the third one. So just to show you that Rohini pida yattevo ubhaucha shashi bhaskaro, how it was doing in the opposite end of the sky is there. Okay, now Saturn is the slowest moving planet. And so essentially it was here near Hasta, Uttara, Falguni for 1+ year. Okay, so it's not going anywhere. It is going back and forth within just very small range. Now, Mahabharat has two references saying the same thing, that Rohini pida, notice the word pida again, Rohini pida yannesha stito raja shaneshare. By becoming steady in one place, Saturn was afflicting Rohini. Okay, and the second reference This is from Udyoga Parva. Says Prajapatyam hi nakshatram grahat tikshna mahadyuti. What is Prajapat nakshatra of a Prajapati? Nothing but Rohini, because Prajapati is the nakshatra devata of Rohini. Just like Bhagam nakshatra that we saw before, the actual nakshatra is a Falguni. Bhaga is a devata of that nakshatra, the Falgunis. Okay. So here Prajapatyam hi nakshatra is that basically saying the nakshatra of a Prajapati, which is Rohini. Grahas tikshno mahadyuti shanaishchara pidayati. Pidayan pranikodikam. Again, the Saturn is afflicting the nakshatra of Prajapati or Rohini Pidayan Nesha Stito Raja Shanishchare. By becoming steady, Saturn is afflicting nakshatra of Prajapati, namely Rohini. How is it doing? Let's look at the positions here. So Rohini is here. It cannot change. And we know the Saturn's position was near Uttara Phaguni Hasta. So suppose if we do the count, so from Rohini, we go Mrugashirsha. So 1, 2, 3 here. What is that? Ardra. Then Punarvasu 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so 10 nakshatra plus. So I said more than 9, you know. So total sky, 13 nakshatra would be half the sky. And do keep in mind, even for a visual observation, the star or the planet and the nakshatra has to come up a little bit before you see it. So something that is separated by 9, 10, 11, 12 nakshatras in the opposite part of the sky is what Mahabharata seems to be calling affliction or torturing or pida. So just as a quick summary here, what we looked at is 3 observations for pida and 2 observations for akramya. Now I want to bring this together with what we have done so far. Okay. So you see how rich, how precise, how meticulous is the evidence. Just we are looking only at the planetary evidence right now, planetary evidence of the Mahabharata text. So the 2 episodes before, when we did this, we looked at what does Vakri means. And we had 3 instances to check. Magha went Vakri near, Mars went Vakri near Nakshatra Magha. Then Mars went Vakri again near Nakshatra Anuradha. So we understood it's oblique crossing. And there is one more observation to verify that. So Jupiter doing a Vakri near Shravana. And all these 3 motions can be beautifully shown to be true, therefore corroborated for year 5561 BC for Mars and Jupiter. Then we looked at retrograde. Retrograde, everyone knows what happens when you go retrograde, that the planet comes near Nakshatra, it slows down. It may, or actually usually it does, it turns backward and then it turns forward again and goes further. When it does, usually, especially the outer superior planets like Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter are extra bright because they are, when that retrograde happens, they are opposite to the sun with the earth in between, just like a full moon day, you know, equivalent to full moon day. That's why these planets are also bright, because they are opposite to the sun with earth in between. Mahabharata describes retrograde motions for Saturn and Jupiter happening near Vishakha. Mahabharata describes Mars going retrograde near Nakshatra Chitra and Swati. And it also describes Venus going retrograde, making a parikrama near Purva Bhadrapada. So those 4 observations we saw before, they perfectly match for 5561 BC. They do not match for any other year. Now, if you have studied permutations and combinations, hope if not, definitely consider. When you start, if you understand permutation combinations, you have a multiple specific things that must occur in a given specific time, like given year. What you know is that the probability of all that happening is actually going to go down. Okay, it's a multiplicative. And this thing also happens when this thing also happens, when this thing also happens. You take the probability of that thing occurring, and then when you multiply, the net probability actually goes down. That's what is happening. Okay, in that sense, it's a rare instance. Any instance by itself is a rare instance, but this one, to find a particular time that matches with the descriptions of Mahabharata, is very, very rare, and that can only be shown to be true for 5561 BC. So we looked at the Vakri motion, retrograde motion. The one episode that has become apparently very famous is 3 instances of 7 planets, either near sun, going away from the sun, or attacking the moon, okay, from the Mahabharata. And we saw that in a previous episode. So that's additional 3 observations. Today, just now we saw Akramya. We have two instances, Saturn attacking Bhaga Nakshatra and Jupiter attacking Jyeshta Nakshatra. The Mahabharat verse does not say Jupiter, it says Shamograha. I am saying it is referring to the Jupiter, and that can be shown to be true for 5561 BCE. But because Shamograha is a very generic term, if another researcher says it's not Jupiter, but it's some other planet, he or she are legit. It's fair on their part to identify Shamogra with some other planet. However, the requirement is that whatever planet they think it is and not Jupiter, they have to show how that planet was doing an akraman on a nakshatra Jeshta for whatever year they are claiming. Also, of course, they have to show that the Saturn is attacking nakshatra Bhaga in that particular year. And then we looked at three instances of different planet combination giving Pida to Nakshatra Rohini. Sun and Moon together giving affliction to Rohini first day of the war. Jupiter doing this on the 17th day of the war. And Saturn, not a specific day, but remember, Saturn is the slowest planet. It is there in that one place for ever, so to say, in the Mahabharata language speak, for 1 year, 2 year. So yeah, it is doing from its place in the Bhaga Nakshatra to Rohini. And very consistently, we can say that the Pida in the Mahabharata means a planet afflicting a nakshatra or a star which is in the opposite, which is at the opposite end of the sky. Okay, so that's what we looked at. There are many more. Okay, there are few more like a conjunctions, like a Tiriac motion, eclipses, and so we will address that in the future one. And what this is going to do is provide you a very fascinating planetary 35 plus different description evidence together. And as I said last time, of course, you're going to start with Arundhati Vasishtha to quickly understand which area you should look for prescription, which area you should definitely not look for. So we don't have to look for the year of Mahabharat war in last 6,500 years. It's just not going to happen. You will not able to explain the Arundhati Vasishtha observation. That's why Aditya ji, these all pseudo Mahabharata researchers don't like Arundhati Vasishtha observation. It is Vyasa's observation in the Mahabharata, but they try to do whatever Vitanda, twisting, torturing that they can do to Arundhati Vasishtha because it destroys their entire dogma of whatever year they are claiming. They don't like Bhishma Nirvana evidence. Bhishma Nirvana, Arundhati Vasishtha is just one observation. Bhishma Nirvana is a 60, 100 rich observations, 60 to 100 different specific observations, all pointing to 92 days, more than 92 days for Bhishma on the bed of arrows. They don't like it because it instantaneously destroys their claim. Okay. So as a viewers, you have to be aware of it. Why people just claim something which has no scientific basis, which is illogical, but why people still do it. And if you don't spend time doing tapasya trying to understand this, guess what? Somebody who is otherwise don't care for the truth, that person is going to create more confusion, more delusion in the society and for our civilization. So some of the books that you would like to read, I mean, if you are in India, these are my 3 books, getting popular or more popular every day. We just, Aditya ji, when, I don't know if I mentioned on the last talk, I might have, when you were gone to India, that actually 2 days, or maybe our last episode, the whole print run was gone. So actually they are now, had to hurry up and get another print run going. If you are outside India, of course, then Amazon is your source. The cover looks different. The content is the same. Sometimes the title is slightly different. Like the historic Rama is 12,209 BC in India. It's exactly same book. And yeah, quick summary. So Mahabharata has 35 plus planetary descriptions. We looked at Vakri, means oblique crossing. We looked at how Mahabharata describes retrograde. It describes as a sthayi deshtita dhruvam, like getting fixed, planet shining brightly and moving in the non-normal direction, like going backwards. Okay, apasavya, a non-normal, or making a circle, parikrama. That's what retrograde is. We have 4 specific observations. 7 planets, 7 graha attacking sun or the moon or going away from the sun. Again, we have to include Uranus, Neptune, Pluto to make sense of that. Now, somebody, Aditya ji, here also will say, oh, come on now. And people have tried to make a fun, just to confuse the ordinary people. Oh, Nilesh says Uranus, Neptune, Pluto were seen because Dr. P.V. Vartak has said before, even they will say P.V. Vartak has said. Yes, we are saying it. We are not hiding it. The point is, these same three observations of 7 planets near sun, going away from the sun or attacking the moon, are there in that same Mahabharata. And if somebody is claiming a date of a Mahabharata based on astronomy evidence, then they have to show for their date these particular specific days, which are these 7 planets that are near sun or attacking the moon or going away from the sun, and explain it logically. No other researcher for no other date can do this. So what do? They try to fool people by saying, look, these guys are telling us about Mahabharata, New Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. But that's how factual research happens. Unless Mahabharata is talking of 7 planets, it's not including Earth, it's not including Rahu and Ketu because they are not visible. Okay, so we are, and it's not in, and so if you just take only visible planets, you have only 5 planets left. There are no 7 planets. Okay, unless there are some planets that have now disappeared. Well, the onus is on that person if they don't want to use Uranus, Neptune, Pluto to show which are those planets. By the way, one more thing I will add. The other researchers, even if they include Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, I am saying they will not able to explain these 3 observations for all the various dates they are claiming. How do I know that? Because something that they don't check for their own claims, I go through Purva Paksha and check it for them, and I know that is not possible. So it is my open challenge to any Mahabharata researcher with any date to take any of this and show how that is true for their date. Today we quickly looked at Akramya, which means a planet near a specific nakshatra, and Pida means a planet, graha, or a combination of a graha such as sun and moon afflicting a specific nakshatra, again on the other side of the sky. So with that, I'm done. Let me stop sharing.
Oh, such a wonderful presentation, and also the details that you put out over there, because the details are more important. And you correctly said, because it's like a logical thing. A is true, B is true, so C must be true. We have to assume that. But at the same time, these planetary descriptions in Mahabharata, they complement each other. They don't contradict each other. That's one important thing. So the complementary aspect is what we need to emphasize on. That's how you derive it in evidence. But I must tell you, the same presentation was done in Harvard by a Harvard guy. No Indian will have a problem. That's a colonized mind.
It's a colonized mind. And actually, they may not even, the Harvard guy may explain in such a way that no one has a clue what is being said.
What is being said.
Yeah, but there are good professors at Harvard. I have listened to them and I know some of them. But then I have also, not just Harvard, I have all these so-called famous places. I have also listened to, and I actually know first name basis, extremely boring professors too. I mean, you just have no idea what they're saying. Especially the humanities department are nasty. I mean, just really irritating. But now what Adityaji, what this is doing is, remember, the planet is like a small kitchen where many dishes are made. The number of planets are same, but Vyasadevi is describing in a different fashion, in a Akramya, in a this fashion, retrograde, Vakri, right? 7 planets attacking. It's creating a fortress. It's not easy to break into this fortress. I mean, anyone claiming with a straight face that they have found the true date of Mahabharata have to explain this. And again, I'm not saying they have to agree to my definition of a Pida. They don't have to agree to my definition of Akramya, my definition of a Sthayi, retrograde, Vakri. No, they can have their definitions if they choose. Indians is a freedom of thought. It is allowed. But once they select a definition, they have to take all these references. In each category, we have 3 or 4 and show how that matches for their date. I'm telling as an open challenge to all Mahabharata researchers, not even a single researcher will able to do it. And therefore I said, how do I know that? Because they are so lazy, they don't know even how to test it. I have gone and checked for their dates. Okay, what to do. So yeah, I mean, we are actually making a wonderful progress here by the grace of Vyasa.
So thank you so much. And I think all credit still goes to Vyasa for all of us, whether we
Yes,
misunderstand him or understand him.
correct.
But the reality won't change just by propaganda.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So thank you so much. And thank you all the viewers for watching. Do share it and let us know your feedback, and also get Nilesh Oak's books. And if you want to try Sattology, we are focused on narrations, not on dates. So if you want to hear the right version of the stories, then you can also select Sattology on Amazon and you can see all the books. Thank you all very much, and namaste.
Namaste.